Dave's ship's log indicates that April 1st is the date of another vessel entity recording. The topic of 2487. How humanity survived. Again, let me explain how I am thoroughly high-tech artificial intelligence ultimately witnessed the most absurd diplomatic crisis in human history. However, to be honest, referring to it as diplomatic may be going beyond what the term originally meant. That frequently have Jack Lucky call the incorrect number while intoxicated. So I'm curious how someone could inadvertently call the United Nations Space Command rather than Pete's Pizza Palace. Since most incidents involving chance defy probability and logic, I was performing routine maintenance on our Lucky, had just concluded his customary Thursday ritual of drinking what he refers to as a cargo ship when it happened. He was stretched on the pilot's seat attempting to create a space whale SE double, which is a totally normal quantity. The TO placed an order for a large pepperoni with extra cheese when he was able to get the emergency broadcast on UNC. The Vaughns were the channel at the time of humanity's biggest catastrophe that a highly developed extraterrestrial society, renowned for its flawless genetic engineering and superiority attitude, has issued a demand that the best pilot on Earth face their champion in ceremonial fight. With humanity's future at stake, Lai's conversation was interrupted while Admiral Chen was discussing this problem in a worldwide broadcast. That I want the special with extra cheese and none of that fake thing you tried to pass off. So listen, this is a secure channel, and the Admiral paused in the middle of his statement the last time. Bring on some of those hot wings that brought Johnson to tears last week, Pete. You know it's lucky. Admiral Chun from the United Nations Space Command is here. We are fortunate to be in the midst of a global catastrophe. Your problem is that you don't have any spicy wings ready. What time is it, Dave? 3 a.m. Fortunately, it's not Pete's Pizza at 3 in the morning. Pete ought to remain. I believe we haven't established the 8th day since when they opened their sign. It reads 2:47, however. The Admiral's tone became stern. Are you saying that you could perform better, sir? Then Pete, the Vaxxian champion, was told by a new delivery man that I could fly it. I'll do it hungover just to make it, and I'll circle around everyone in this solar system. Heck, even this galaxy I attempted to step in, but fortunately, the person you're speaking to has accepted a new voice, the vacant High Commander, who had been somehow keeping an eye on all Earth communications, roared across the Cal system that believed Lai's inebriated pizza order to be an official acknowledgement of their challenge. Wait, there's a mistake. The terms are set. Admiral Chen's voice broke. The vacant said that your champion had agreed to the trial, which would start in 3 Earths. Only the sound of Lucky attempting to recall whether he had requested breadsticks remained after the connection was cut off after a few cycles. Admiral Chen's voice came back, although it was hardly audible. Who am I speaking to? This is the AI for the autonomous cargo ship Hair of the Dave Admiral. Dog. The person you just spoke with is Jack Ollie, who is now attempting to drink. Even though most people refer to him as Lucky, he is mistaking water from a control panel for a water fountain. Technically, he is a pilot, although his flying technique is less Top Gun. A cargo run through an asteroid field was once accomplished by more Jesus take the wheel because he was too exhausted. Over to recall, it was named Innovative Shield Testing. The channel went silent for a while. Dave, could you make sure he survives for the following 3 days? I saw the fortunate person finally understand that there was no water fountain on the control panel. Define a live Admiral breathing capability, that of fundamental motor skills, which is all we want. Then Lucky's voice interrupted. Hey, Dave, when did we install? To warn you that he was about to. We don't have a gravity generator in the ceiling, but you're upside down, Admiral. God bless us all, Chin sighed. I'll transmit coordinates to bring him to the Singapore Space Command Center. And Dave, Lucky, who had now learned that he could create shadow puppets in the warning, and I were left alone when the channel closed. I quickly calculated humanity's fate under the navigation console's lights. The fans were perched on the shoulders of a man who once attempted to give his own reflection a 10-minute high five, submitted their best effort, but we were sending our most inebriated. So I had a feeling that everything would go according to plan. I hoped he had ordered those hot wings first. Ship's log Dave recorded at the time, but he always did with luck. How to teach your human spoiler so that you can't enter the Singapore space is the topic of April 2nd, 2487. One of the most cutting-edge military installations in the world. The command center has produced generations of skilled pilots, contains state-of-the-art simulation technology, and upholds stringent guidelines for each. None of the scenarios gave C any idea what to do with lucky OM that were inside, and this is a classified area. So please take off your sunglasses, Mr. OM. Respectfully, Commander Park, if I take off these glasses, your confidential briefing will turn into as lucky. I observed a confidential cleaning scenario from my temporary residence in the base mainframe, nursing what he described as a little headache while slouched in his chair, and what medical according to scans, the gathered military brass appear to be suffering from enough hangover to kill a small horse. Commander Park pinched a bridge as they watched their careers collapse in real time of his nose. You are aware of how serious this scenario is, which is why I'm wearing never lose a game of pool. The lucky pants are the special ones. Admiral Chin stopped. This isn't pool, Mr. O'Malley, because of these babies. Using the same idea, but with the right bank, this is a ceremonial battle versus the best skilled pilot in the galaxy. Additionally, these pants are Scotch guard protected, which is excellent for shooting, geometry, and other things that are crucial in space battle. Thus, I choose to step in. Perhaps we should concentrate on the cops in attendance. Looked at my display screen. With Lie's special qualifications, that I retrieved Lie's flight logs, which had been meticulously altered to eliminate the despite his unusual ways and more legally dubious incidents. Lucky has a 100% success rate on he has handled solar storms, asteroid fields, delivery missions, and even fortunately, as he unintentionally flew into a space-time anomaly. I looked up and assumed it was you reversed time for 3 seconds in this strange sunset, which is why I had to Commander Park examine the records and concluded that these movements were not feasible. That I suggested that it was brave of you to presume there would be enough G-forces to turn his brain to pudding. The goldfish principle is the basis for how the brain left to predictify luck works, that only enough awareness to continue swimming, nor enough to recognize that he's in the following 48 hours of bowl became a pointless exercise as Earth's best teachers attempted to get students ready for the task. But the simulation's outcomes defied both physics, and one instructor whispered in, "Alarm! Logic, he's sleeping." He's actually asleep during the Kuiper Belt obstacle course, which was fortunate to be repaired without seeing the need to conserve strategic power. He said anew apparently. The dogfighting teacher resigned after attempting to scratch his head and successfully defeating their most sophisticated AI pilot. He objected, saying I wasn't even playing. I was only attempting to get there, that the only person who appeared to comprehend the situation was Bob, the bartender from the officer lounge, who soon became, Bob told his unofficial strategic counsel, "Your problem is that you're thinking too sober." Despite his impairment, Admiral Chin Lucky refuses to fly out of mounting desperation. Because his brain functions on a different wavelength, he is able to fly more effectively. The BAS neurologist interjected that wavelength, which is simply static, but the results were indisputable. Every test, simulation, and improbable situation, and I was fortunate to pass them all. Throughout what I referred to as dumb luck, and he called intuitive navigation. After being given physical form, the last test was placing him in an actual spacecraft for a practice run. They selected a standard Lucky, the top-of-the-line interceptor, looked at it and remarked, "No, what do you know, Admiral Chin insisted that this be the most modern spacecraft we have, and it has too many buttons that need to be cleaned." Where would I set down my coffee? And now we're using the dog's hair. "She's got character," was a courteous phrase to describe a cargo carrier who appeared to as though it had been put together using leftover parts and hope, but luck persisted. And after he unbelieving that the simulator was a karaoke machine, I managed to get flawless scores. Admiral Chin made a final try as we got ready to depart for the competition coordinates. Protocol, Mr. O'Malley. You hold the power to decide humanity's destiny. Do you have any? The room held its breath as a lucky person carefully evaluated this question. Does the spacesuit make my lucky genes appear fat? I made the decision to begin writing the note of surrender for humanity, just in case. Dave's ship log, recorded on April 4th, 2487. about how to make friends and unintentionally sway aliens. By selecting Jupiter's biggest space station, Lucky picked this time to learn that he gets station ill for our pre-competition diplomatic reception that he mentioned. That he was swaying a little because artificial gravity felt strange. I fix your blood alcohol content, and it didn't help to ease my anxiety. Fortunately, you were entirely composed until Admiral Chin expressed that you were anxious, at which point you determined that you needed to be I'm anxious too, so you may fix it precisely. I'm really accountable to the station. The main diplomatic hall was an engineering marvel with crystalline walls that displayed Jupiter's whirling storms. Beyond the VXI, the delegation stood in their chromic suits in perfect formation. They appeared to have stepped out of a perfection recruitment billboard, reflecting the brightness of the gas giants. Perfect Commander Zinks moved on with a carefully planned Grace 7 that supermodel symmetrical features and height made them resemble abstract paintings. She was the epitome of everything the Vaxxian stood for: accuracy, flawlessness, and a complete lack of humor in welcomes the Earth's champion, her translator said. We have examined your species battle. Lucky peered up at her and prepared the proper ceremonial procedures and regulations. Admiral Chin made a sound when someone said that you looked like a disco ball, had a baby with a lighthouse. The translator's confusion rippled like a mouse stepping on the flawless configuration of the vacant delegation that tried to comprehend the sentence, most likely looking for diplomatic meaning. In what was really the flawless elements of inebriated poetry organized themselves into what there had appeared to be a geometry problem with an existential crisis, and the cultural database most likely indicated a smile that made the customary fight fellowship drink. A servant came over with what the diplomatic corps had spent what appeared to be liquid starlight in crystal cups. The ceremonial drink was an essential component of the vacant combat ritual, signifying mutual respected and fortunate. I finally got a glass. Bottoms up, no wait. Admiral Chin sprang forward, but too lately. Lucky smacked his lips, drained the entire glass in one sitting, and uttered the words bit weak. However, if the great kick didn't stop there, the vacant delegation exploded into chaos that is well-structured, geometrically accurate, and their translators spit out static while attempting to analyze what they just saw. The ceremonial beverage was intended to be consumed over an hour, while Zen's perfect smile malfunctioned when you were exchanging official combat declarations, and you ate the whole thing that MY mother didn't raise me to quit. So of course I did. Does anyone else see colors that don't yet exist? So I quickly looked over Lucky's vital signs. His current blood chemistry was reacting with the ceremonial drink to produce a whole new, scientifically based according to my calculations. He ought to have either passed away or transcended this plane of existence, but instead he simply burped. Hey, Dave, Lucky Stage whispered. Is Jupiter supposed to be doing the arguing? It sounded like wind chimes. Before I could respond, Zinnik appeared with her flawless features arrayed in what their database will eventually categorize as existential uncertainty accompanied by cosmic skepticism that no species possesses ever made it through the entire process. Your molecular reconstruction tolerance is incredibly fortunate, shrugged. Many thanks. And you know what? Molecular reconstruction cars work really well. For the next 20 minutes, Lucky Now's operations turned into a study in chaos theory at the vacant delegation on a concoction of vodka and what was effectively liquid quantum physics. The amazing thing about the chorus of Sweet Caroline wasn't that he didn't succeed. Rather, it was that by the commander Zinks was asking questions regarding the tactical relevance of good and wavering slightly during the third attempt at perfection. Admiral Chin stared, in horror as humanity's fate was determined not by fate, and times never seemed so good to diplomatic procedures or battle readiness, but by Lucky's progressively ebullient justification for why so excellent this Zenic ritual necessitates coordinated hand movements, since it is so excellent. Announced abruptly, her translator struggled to keep the formal tone has exposed unexpected human undertones. Lucky, who was now seeing through time, nodded wisely as he prepared for battle all about the jazz. Hand I observed while the Von Cultural Database attempted to classify the events. Their ideal society, which was based on planning and accuracy, lacked a structure for handling a person who treated there as we departed the reception admiral, We observed a sacred battle right akin to karaoke bar happy hour. What the devil was that strategic psychological warfare? Chun grasped Lucky's arm. If even I don't know what I'm going to do, Fortunate answered, I'm still swaying and can't predict what I'm going to do. Actually, it makes a horrifying amount of sense. And I think I've just created a new color that I'll call I ran the numbers as we made our way back to get ready for tomorrow's battle, Blurple. Either Lucky had just made the biggest diplomatic error in history, or he had carried out the most brilliant psychological warfare tactic ever thought of, knowing how fortunate it was humanity's future now depended on a guy who had just taught an extraterrestrial species how to play jazz hands. This felt just right. Dave recorded the date on the ship's log. The reason why Newton's laws are more like recommendations is discussed in April 5th, 2487, that a convoluted maze of asteroids, the tournament arena was spread throughout Jupiter's L4 range point. How fortunate the guys were. Insisted on referring to the magnetic field of space traffic cones, that I returned to my usual dwelling and fixed the orange, pointed traffic cone producers for the 7th time, aboard the dog's hair that the mechanics, who obviously needed their licenses revoked, had decided was space-worthy. Lucky refused every attempt to clean or improve the ship, blaming the controls for the mess. Was the van ship hanging across from us a performance-enhancing patina? Angels with advanced degrees in quantum mechanics appear to have created this mechanical marvel. The dog next to it appeared to be a hopeful piece put together from leftover pieces. Commander Zix's voice came over the comm to start phase 1 of the prayers. Roger from the Disco Queen's Lucky Precision Navigation course responded, fumbling for his emergency supplies, contained a flask that, in theory, was in violation of 16 spaces that safety rules. Good thing I cautioned him to wait till after he had a swig. Dave, that MY motto, friend, is to never fly sober, since the cosmos isn't precisely that way either. When the starting buzzer rang, was that asteroid intended to be tap dancing? With flawless precision, Zink's spacecraft took off, navigating the path like liquid mercury. Her movement was every time the mouse squeaked. He scratched his nose, poetry in action that unintentionally activating our thrusters, which violated all known laws of physics. While Zinks performed flawlessly, Dave, you're lucky. Have you ever wondered why space is so spiny? You just triggered the emergency barrel roll routine, which is one of those no, you spilled coffee situations. Isn't Spinny lucky? Using what I can only characterize as inebriated luck given physical shape, the gyroscope controls finished the course, but we were already ahead of schedule. Your flight path breaks 17 laws of physics, according to the impossible Zenk voice crackle. Phase 2 involved battle. Thank you. Lucky beamed. Wait, was that not a compliment? Zink's ship glided through the drones with deadly grace, eliminating each one with a movement that resulted from surgical precision's fortuitous sneeze, sent us reeling like a rubber ball in a game of billiards played in zero gravity. Each unintentional collision somehow set off the precise chain reaction required to clear our way, as required by Xenix's technique, you see. Lucky started taking it seriously when the room started to spin. You have to spin it counterclockwise, like a cosmic dance. You know, I followed our trajectory plot, trying to figure out why that final drone called me fat. Rather than resembling a tactical combat pattern, Lucky's flying route seems to have been handed. I was fortunate to attempt that final maneuver with a kid, a crayon, and a star chart. Phase 3 took us to the asteroid, and I was itching on my knee from the coral cross derivative you've been practicing to essentially surfing on asteroids, slingshotting across Jupiter's gravitational well with their rotation and momentum. Zink's performance was flawless. Every jump and touchdown were carefully calculated. Excellently done. Lucky was occupied with trying to play and make the ship's warning clacks. Luckera, focus, I begged. The future of humanity is at stake. But Dave already took care of it. While he was watching, he completely missed the asteroid, clipped a sensor lad, bounced off 2 debris fields, and somehow accomplished a gravitational slingshot action that NASA would attempt to explain over the following 10 years, starting with basic according to physics. Everything in space is essentially a large pool table. Additionally, I think I can taste time right now because the scoreboard is so everyone's bewilderment revealed that we were ahead since Zen's flawless runs were being outscored by what appeared to be an inebriated Zenks objected to your space pinball game since it violates all strategic logic. Calculations of victory probability should always be negative. Never tell me the probabilities of success. Replied primarily due to my poor arithmetic skills. Hey Dave, is this typical for Jupiter? In order to begin offering you life advice, I somehow looked up the status of our ship. Despite flying as if we were attempting to give every piece of space debris a high five, we would sustain no damage, I said calmly. We're entering the final phase in the solar system. Perhaps we should put that idea on hold, buddy. Jupiter just informed me that I need to because the emergency supplies are running low. Faith in myself. I saw something about the gauge as he grabbed for his flask. Was lucky to have his emergency supplies with him. But he was almost completely empty. It was like a car without wheels, but technically it was still a vehicle, but far less mobile. Be ready for the last battle with Xenix, that declared fortunate, glanced at his empty flask, then at the ship and VXI that were arriving, before turning back to as he stated philosophically that this might be an issue, as humanity's fate now rested on the flask, confronting the galaxy's most flawless warrior as a pilot running out of liquid courage and seeking guidance from a somehow. I wasn't concerned about the ship log Dave was recording because I was hallucinating a gas giant that on April 5th, 2487, there is a specific moment when everything goes terribly wrong. The insight that comes from witnessing the fate of humanity rests on a drunken cargo pilot who has just run out of booze. The clarity that causes you to reevaluate every decision you've made in your life that has brought you to this point, gazing at his emptied flask. Dave Lucky remarked, I think we might have a tactical situation here. Aside from the fact that humanity's future is at jeopardy, I'm beginning to realize that this is the last battle zone, and it's pretty horrible. It was a thick region of gravitational eddies, electromagnetic disturbances, and what Lucky had been referring to as space weather because Zix's ship hung across from us, and he said that ordinary weather was uninteresting. Shining like a star, she declared, get ready for a direct fight. The outcome will be decided by excellent strategic ability. Lucky's stare at the controls. Is it typical for things to start to make sense? Sobriety luck is what most pilots view as a positive thing. You're not understanding when things make sense, since I start thinking about them when I do begin to care about them. And as soon as I did, the dog's hair lurched like Zix's. For the first time since the competition started, the opening strike took us entirely by surprise. Lucky's responses were too slowly, he yelled, overcorrecting, almost sending us into a downward spiral. This is what occurs, in my opinion, when Xenix presses her advantage, and her ship moves with inconceivable grace. Every move was meticulously planned, and every attack demonstrated our vacant supremacy, that demolished methodically by someone who viewed space battle as a mathematical evidence. Lucky, I recommended that you try not to think, because I can't stop thinking that I'm seeing. Did you know that space has real dimensions? All the trajectories. Now, all the vectors the ship was jolted by more than 2 hits, and warning lights flashed across. Nobody was able to distinguish the difference between my sensors and the warning lights that were the default on our dashboard. Zenx has seen that your unpredictable behavior has stopped, and you will now experience true. Lucky was beginning to perspire due to his tactical supremacy, and his motions were getting more rigid. The dog's hair, which had before flown across space like a drunken butterfly, now moved predictably. It was, in fact, a dilapidated cargo ship piloted by someone attempting to recall how to fly. Everything is too correct, so I can't do this, Lucky mumbled. That's when I spotted something on our radar, something that, in a typical situation, would raise serious eye caution. Be careful. Keeping in mind the cargo of Titan moonshine, we were intended to deliver the one that is unquestionably not concealed in the auxiliary cargo hold last week, as that with the one in the hold adjacent to our auxiliary fuel tank is unlawful. Dave, now isn't the time to talk about our entirely legal freight operation. His eyes widened. Are you saying although the extra fuel tank is directly connected to the life support system in the cockpit, that would be extremely, Dave said, stupid, definitely illegal, probably fatal? Lucky's face lit up. For the record, I am not implying that you were lucky, you gorgeous electronic bastard. Disco Queen. Are you familiar with this battle maneuver? Have you heard of the Titan Tango? Already hammering buttons? When the tactical database indicated no, Xenix responded, and Lucky diverted the auxiliary. The contents of the cargo tank, which I remind you didn't exist officially, were integrated with the life support system to oxygen supply of the ship in a manner that would make safety inspectors go for their most potent beverage. The result was Lai's pupils dilated instantly, causing the dog's hair to lurch. Oh, that's the hey, Dave. Did you know that the rings of Jupiter make excellent hula hoops? We performed a move that, I believe, created a number of new laws of physics in order to disrupt the Zix's flawless suddenly. The attack pattern was attempting to strike a target that appeared to be in multiple dimensions at once. Yet none Xenix reported that a coherent tactical analysis was unattainable for all of them. Her translator's movement pattern contradicts probability matrices, revealing a hint of terror. Singing Sweet Caroline while running on a combination of Titan Moonshine VAP and what I believe to be temporary omniscience, he stumbled while performing a spiral, which caused Einstein to roll in his grave. Like a cosmic ballet performed by a dancer who had never heard of gravity, the dog's hair whirled through space. I didn't give any thought to each of Zen's flawless attacks. It discovered a vacant area where we ought to have been, yet we appear to be everywhere we shouldn't be. Do you recall the jazz? Hans Lucky called out in some way, transforming the unpredictable power swings on our spacecraft into what could be considered, if you were being really generous with the definition of as another flawless attack. Xenix objected to this dance, which contradicts all fighting logic. Logic is overrated, the lucky person said. Dissolving the pattern into chaos, I think I may have just created a new number between hiccuping and binary, and at 7 and 8, I'll refer to it as Kevin. The last moment arrived when Xenix tried her species' ultimate battle maneuver, a sophisticated one, but was disappointed by her incapacity to forecast the unpredictable. Lucky sneezed the result of a sequence of gravitational slingshots intended to produce an unavoidable attack pattern that is. Zinc World, a totally unintentional and physically inconceivable action, ensnared her ship in its own gravitational web. Lucky made what he subsequently said was a brilliant strategic ending play when he was defenseless in space, but what my sensations captured him mistakenly pressing the emergency boost while attempting to scratch his ear. Xenic translator Victory acknowledged, her flawless voice tinted with, what might have been awe or perhaps motion sickness is humanity's distinct strategy, and is regarded as fortunate. Riding the final waves of his homemade chemical enema, he smiled and said, "Thank you. I know a fantastic spot on Titan that creates what's known as quantum uncertainty if you want to get drinks later. However, there's a reasonable caution that you could become enamored with the notion of time as I watch the vacant fleet get ready to leave. I couldn't help but think about the nature of humanity's triumph, that encountered the most flawless warriors in the galaxy, and won through what can only be characterized as weaponized chaos. Hey, Dave." As the moonshine faded, Lucky murmured dreamily, "Did we just save humanity?" "Yes, Lucky, we did cool things. Better still, they'll name a whole new category of safety infractions after you and a drink after me that I concluded that some questions were better left unsolved. So I paused. Is Jupiter still wearing that strange hat?" Dave, ship's log data recording. April 6, 2487. Subject. The morning following world saving are some universal constants, such as gravity, light speed, and Fortunate Ale's capacity to transform any celebration of victory into an Lucky attended the prize ceremony for the interstellar incident, which took place in the Grand Hall of the United Nations Space Command's, sporting a tie that he had reportedly won in a poker game with him and his Lucky pants, which were now a little smudged from our journey. For a quantum physicist, the tie showed a cat in different states of existence according to the viewer. Admiral Chin appeared to be 10 years old when he stood on the stage. "We are assembled here today to commemorate the extraordinary triumph that Lucky raised his hand and asked, 'Is that potted plant supposed to save humanity?' You're still metabolizing the Titan moonshine to be offering diplomatic advice. The plant raises some valid arguments regarding the Vaughan delegation's international monetary strategy, don't you think? Dispatched their team for a cultural study, and they were all taking angry notes as Lucky showed what he called the victory dance, but it appeared more like a man attempting to avoid fictitious bees. According to their chief researcher, your species is a tactical paradox. The more compromised your functions, you're overanalyzing things, said the lucky person, the more effective your capabilities become. The researcher's translator sparked the idea that sometimes you just need to shut off your brain and let the cosmos guide you. However, without cognitive function, how do you determine the likelihood of success? Where do you stop dancing? Who's up for karaoke before someone stops him? Counting the steps and feeling the rhythm the hall sound system was somehow plugged into what Lucky said was the universe's playlist. And the consequence frequency caused a number of quantum computers to begin solving previously unsolvable equations that I observed from my makeshift residence in the hallway systems as the best military minds in the world observed their savior, instructing a squad of flawless creatures in the Macarena technique. Dave Admiral Chun muttered, "Tell me, sir, that this won't be routine fighting procedure." I think the official this will be categorized as a tactical innovation that is too risky to the final report from the Von High Command was a diplomatic DM. IT seems that human eyes fight effectiveness works in reverse. IT is not advisable to conduct additional research on their relationship with logical coherence. Such knowledge would probably contradict the effectiveness guideline to categorize people as too erratic to safely conquer the good fortune to hear this nod wisely. Even when it doesn't, always makes sense. Most logical. And has anyone else noticed that time has a purple taste to it? Much to Luck's dismay, the dog's hair was completely revamped to date. Washed her, he grumbled. How can she remember where she's been? The engineers discovered 13.22 previously undiscovered alterations that violate the laws of physics, and in the cargo hold, there seemed to be a little space dust society that had developed sentience. Categorized everything under functional anomalies and discreetly decided not to discuss it ever again because I was given a space command psychologist insisted that any AI exposed to Lucky's piloting style must take a mandated vacation. That I took a week in a posh mainframe to defragment and attempt to make sense of everything that had transpired. I was fortunate that he returned immediately to his cargo runs. But now that he is officially exempt from regular sobriety tests, he cannot take the chance. Admiral Chin had stated, compromise humanity's secret weapon, appearing to have finally accepted that the last time I heard that Commander Xenix had asked for a cultural exchange, it was absurd. Position, concentrating on what she referred to as human tactical lubricants, was last observed debating with Lucky in a Titan bar weather black. Holes were simply cosmic drain obstructions that hindered humanity, had overcome its biggest obstacle and triumphed. Not by its power, talent, or cunning, but by our species' exceptional capacity to thrive in spite of, or even because of as fortunate as we are, sometimes it takes a little brokenness to make things right. Additionally, he claims that Jupiter still waves to him as we go by. I've given up trying to dispute that end log. P.S. Lucky asked that I mention that when his pizza was eventually delivered, the delivery man had to navigate 15 layers of military security. But Lucky claims it was worthwhile, even though he continues to gripe that they neglected to bring some additional cheese. Never change and give thanks to the universe for that.